Welcome, one and all, to another episode of Pacific414 episode review. I'm your host, Mike, and in this episode, I'm going to be giving you my reaction, review, along with spoilers for Star Wars Vision, the twins. Now, with this episode, it gives us the backstory of these two twins, Am and Kari. They were forged by the power of the dark side. That's right, you heard me correctly. They were forged by the power of the dark side, and they're responsible for overseeing a new weapon that can destroy a planet. Where have I heard that before? This weapon is a hyper beam powered by a kyber crystal that can destroy a planet. It's controlled by two Star Destroyers, with the main power source on one Star Destroyer and then controls on the other Star Destroyer. Well, Am is talking to her droid B20N, and they're going over how Am and her brother Kari were created, and the fact that the weapon is almost complete. Well, there's something that they're unaware of, and that something is the fact that Kari is stealing the kyber crystal, and he has a good reason. That reason that comes to be explained as he is confronted by his sister when they go to use the weapon and the power source isn't available, is the fact that no one should have the power to destroy a planet with the power of this kyber crystal. I know I've said power quite a few times already in this review. But what ends up happening is Kari ends up getting on board an X-Wing that his droid, B-Duo, has taken control of. How this X-Wing is on there? Is Kari part of the Rebel Alliance? Is he still loyal to the Empire? Well, from what he says in the episode, he could care less for either side. But how they acquired this X-Wing? One could imagine that you just have to leave story elements like that, out the window and just take the story for what it is. Another could be that they intercepted a rebel pilot, and that's how they acquired the X-Wing. Well, our duo ends up using the X-Wing to blast at Am and the stormtroopers that are guarding the area, blowing up a few ATSTs, and the chase is on. And one of the cool things that ends up happening even before this chase goes on is the fact that you have stormtroopers who are going after Kari, and Kari disposes of them quickly before he meets up with his sister, who tries to stop him to no avail. And then, Kari and B-Duo get on the X-Wing. They take off. They're trying to make a run for it. Am manages to use the Force to grab a hold of the X-Wing and try to bring it back down to the Star Destroyer. She then locates where this power crystal, kyber crystal, is inside of the X-Wing and starts pulling it down. Am is fighting the controls to keep the X-Wing under full power and also try to escape the pull of Am's grip on the X-Wing, which actually ends up sending the X-Wing off course. It crashes onto the hull of the Star Destroyer. A battle ensues between the two. At one point, the kyber crystal is being pulled between Am and Kari. It ends up shattering out of its casing, and then it ends up shattering into two pieces, which the two twins each get a piece. One uses it to power her suit, a suit that was explained in the beginning of the episode that they wear a special suit designed for the two of them to use their force powers. Well, Am's the one who decides to use it in her suit. Kari ends up using it in a lightsaber he has. A battle ensues. At one point, Am looks like General Grievous with how many arms extend from her suit, with red lightsaber beams extended from them. So, as the battle's ensuing, Kari comes up with a plan on how to defeat his sister, even after showing his sister a glimpse of her own future. He decides to use not just the kyber crystal that's inside his lightsaber to ignite the beam even higher and stronger, but also use his X-Wing to end up splitting one of the Star Destroyers in two. It ends up happening. Our duo is the one at the controls of the X-Wing. And of course, Am tells her brother that the one thing that he fears is death. She doesn't fear death. She welcomes it. And Kari tells Am that she has a choice in her matters as far as either serving the Empire, serving the dark side, or putting the dark side and the Empire behind her and going toward the light. Well, then what ends up happening is with our duo at the controls of the X-Wing and Kari going toward his sister, and of course, they're battling, so the lightsabers have connected. There's a point where Kari tells our duo to punch it, and they go into hyperspace, and that's where the Star Destroyer is split in two. The hyperspace goes off into another part of the galaxy. We do find out where, and as far as what happens to Am, well, we don't know. It's left to a mystery, as her suit is shattered before Kari leaves, and she's last seen floating in the arms of her droid, B20N. So it then cuts to a scene where it takes place on Tatooine. How do we know it's Tatooine? Well, it's a desert planet. And also at the end, you see two sons of Tatooine. And of course, you hear some Jawas in the background. And you hear Kari say that he still feels Am out there in the Force. She's still alive, and they will eventually find her. So, all in all, it was a pretty good episode. Again, I will go into detail as to which episode is my favorite episode if I haven't told you personally offline. Honestly, this was an okay episode. It kind of made me roll my eyes at certain points. I mean, this could have been a perfect scenario for Luke and Leia, if they had ever gone that way in Star Wars. But to have yet another weapon that was capable of destroying a planet, I rolled my eyes. To be honest, it's like, oh, really? We're going there again? We can't just have a super weapon that can do some crucial damage to rebel ships. We gotta have another super weapon that destroys a planet. So, yeah, we're going there. And we've already seen this idea 3 times before now. And honestly, that kind of gets to me. That kind of gets to me to where it's like, okay, I realize having a super weapon that is capable of destroying a planet, or as we saw in The Force Awakens, a series of planets. It's kind of a trope of Star Wars, but come on. But, I guess, I would have liked to have seen something a little bit more original, a weapon that's at least capable of taking out multiple ships in a fleet. Not necessarily a planet, but multiple ships, or at least do severe enough damage to a fleet where it would take the Rebel Alliance or the Resistance some time to rebuild their fleet and get back into action. So, yeah, I know I keep saying so because honestly, even though there are parts of this episode I enjoyed, there are parts of it that just made me go, why? Why are we going this route? Why is Kare piloting this X-Wing? How did they come in possession of this X-Wing? And like I said before, and the only few answers I could think of was, well, Kare might be a spy for the Rebel Alliance, and then he even says he could care less for either the Empire or the Rebellion. And then, back to what I previously said. They captured a Rebel pilot, and that was that Rebel pilot's X-Wing. So, I don't know. I know I probably just nitpicking on certain parts, but uh, honestly, I I gotta say that this wasn't a bad episode. It's just not jiving with me. Eh, there's some questions I have, and maybe talking to a few people about this episode later on, you know, we can all put our heads together and come up with reasons why we did like this episode, why we didn't like this episode. I did think some of the voice acting was a little over the top, but I understand that this is an anime, and in some cases it is over the top. And I'll be honest, I know I didn't mention how in episode 2 it had Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Jay, but doing the voice of Kari was Neil Patrick Harris, and he did an okay job. But I didn't think he did all that great. And the voice actress for Am, again, it was just an okay job. Again, it was over the top, and I'm sure it sounded like I, didn't really like this episode too much. And yeah, you could say that I wasn't really into this episode. But that's just me. And it's just me just looking at this episode and, asking why did they make this choice where, you have two siblings that are part of the dark side and one manages to go to the light. What my mind starts thinking is, why did this particular character start going to the light side? And we see even in this episode how corrupted Am is by the dark side, because there's one point in the episode where the kyber crystal that's in her suit starts overloading the suit because she's using too much power. So I know, I know, I know. Someone's gonna say you're nitpicking, Mike. No, I'm just looking at it and going, why were these writing choices made? I'm not saying I would have made the same choices. I'm not saying I would have made different choices. I'm just asking, why were these particular choices made? That's all. So if I had to give this episode, a rating, out of 5, I'd probably say I'd give this episode 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5 at best. At worst, maybe 2.5 out of 5. It wasn't my favorite. It's probably not going to be my least favorite. I'm sure I'm going to find one that I just don't like, and that's just the thing. You're watching something, and you're not going to gel with every story that's being told. You're not going to, like every art style that's being depicted in every story. So right now, at best, 3 out of 5. At worst, 2.5 out of 5. My main complaint is kind of the story choices and the acting. That's my main complaint. That's going to go ahead and conclude this episode of Pacific414 episode review. If you like this review, give this video a thumbs up. If you didn't like the review, give it a thumbs down. Leave a comment down in the comment section below. Share this video with your friends, and subscribe to the Pacific414 YouTube channel. You can also find me on social media. The links will be down in the description below. I appreciate each and every one of you for stopping by and watching the content. It means a lot. And to my subscribers and non-subscribers, thank you. So until the next episode of Pacific 414 episode reviews, this has been Mike. Wishing you all a great day and take care.